On the Origin of Species is one of the most influential books in the history of science. Written by Charles Darwin and published in 1859, this groundbreaking work introduced the scientific theory of evolution by natural selection, reshaping our understanding of life on Earth. Darwin's ideas were revolutionary, challenging the prevailing views of his time and setting the foundation for modern biology. This book not only explored the mechanisms of evolution, but also laid out evidence from various fields, including biology, paleontology, and geology, to support Darwin's arguments. Here's a closer look at the contents, impact, and significance of On the Origin of Species. Background and motivation. Charles Darwin's journey toward developing the theory of evolution by natural selection began long before the publication of On the Origin of Species. As a young naturalist on the HMS Beagle from 1831 to 1836, Darwin explored diverse ecosystems across the globe, notably in South America and the Galapagos Islands. Observing variations in species from different locations, he became intrigued by the adaptations that allowed organisms to thrive in specific environments. Darwin's observations of finches, tortoises, and other animals in the Galapagos played a crucial role in forming his ideas about the mechanisms driving evolution. Darwin was influenced by the works of earlier scientists, such as Charles Lyell's Principles of Geology, which argued that geological changes occurred gradually over immense periods, shaping the Earth's landscape. This idea of gradual change provided a framework for Darwin to consider slow biological transformations. Additionally, reading an essay on the principle of population by Thomas Malthus was a turning point for Darwin, who realized that competition for limited resources leads to the survival of those best suited to their environments. Darwin spent more than 2 decades refining his theory and collecting evidence, hesitating to publish due to the potential religious and social repercussions. However, in 1858, he learned that another naturalist, Alfred Russel Wallace, had independently developed a similar theory. This prompted Darwin to present his findings to the public, leading to the publication of On the Origin of Species in 1859. Main concepts and structure of the book. On the Origin of Species is organized into several chapters that methodically outline Darwin's ideas, evidence, and anticipated objections. The book opens with an introduction in which Darwin acknowledges the controversial nature of his ideas and expresses his hope that scientific evidence would ultimately validate his theory. 1. Variation under domestication and variation under nature. In the initial chapters, Darwin discusses how artificial selection, or selective breeding, has led to the development of various breeds of domesticated animals and plants. He argues that if humans can create such diversity through controlled breeding, natural forces could also drive similar changes in wild populations. Darwin then explores the variations that exist in nature, examining how different species and even individuals within the same species show subtle differences that may affect their chances of survival and reproduction. 2. The struggle for existence. Building on Malthus's ideas, Darwin explains the struggle for existence, wherein organisms must compete for resources like food, mates, and space. Not all individuals survive to reproduce, and those with advantageous traits have a better chance of passing on their characteristics to the next generation. This concept is central to Darwin's theory, as it introduces the idea that survival is not random, but depends on the suitability of an organism to its environment. 3. Natural selection. The cornerstone of Darwin's theory, natural selection is the process by which organisms with beneficial adaptations are more likely to survive and reproduce. Over generations, these advantageous traits become more common within the population, leading to gradual changes in species. Darwin famously describes natural selection as descent with modification, emphasizing that species are not static but evolve over time. He argues that this mechanism explains the diversity of life as species diverge from common ancestors due to environmental pressures. 4 difficulties on theory. Darwin was aware of potential criticisms and devoted an entire chapter to addressing possible objections. He discusses the imperfections of the fossil record, the lack of transitional forms, and the challenges in explaining the origin of complex structures, such as the eye. Darwin acknowledged that not all questions could be answered at the time, but expressed confidence that future discoveries would support his theory. Remarkably, many of these concerns were later addressed through advancements in genetics, paleontology, and molecular biology. 5. Instinct and hybridism. In chapters on instinct and hybridism, Darwin examines the behaviors and reproduction of species to argue that they too could be shaped by natural selection. For example, he suggests that the complex instincts of animals, like the hive-building skills of bees, evolved over time. Hybridism, or the crossing of different species, is discussed to explore the limits of species boundaries and highlight the role of reproductive isolation in the formation of new species. Number 6. Geographical distribution and classification. Darwin also delves into the geographical distribution of species, noting that related species tend to be found in the same regions. He discusses how isolated environments, such as islands, often harbor unique species, providing further evidence of evolutionary divergence. Additionally, Darwin addresses the classification of species, proposing that taxonomy reflects evolutionary relationships and that organisms are grouped based on shared ancestry. 7. Fossil record and imperfection of the geological record. Darwin acknowledges that the fossil record is incomplete and that many intermediate forms might be missing. However, he interprets existing fossils as evidence of gradual change over time, arguing that the imperfections of the geological record are due to the rarity of fossilization and the limited scope of paleontological research. His willingness to address these gaps with a scientific rationale demonstrated a level of intellectual honesty that strengthened his argument. 8. Recapitulation and conclusion. In the final chapter, Darwin recaps his main arguments and reflects on the grandeur of the evolutionary process. He emphasizes that natural selection is a slow, natural process, capable of shaping complex life forms from simple beginnings. Darwin's closing thoughts are both poetic and visionary, suggesting that all life is interconnected and continually evolving. Impact and legacy. The publication of On the Origin of Species sparked widespread debate, challenging the established views of the natural world and human origins. In Victorian society, where religious beliefs strongly influenced scientific understanding, Darwin's ideas were seen as controversial and even heretical. His theory implied that humans were not created separately by a divine being, but were part of the natural world, sharing a common ancestry with other species. While some scientists and intellectuals quickly embraced Darwin's theory, others vehemently opposed it. The reaction from religious institutions was especially intense, as Darwin's ideas appeared to contradict the literal interpretation of creation presented in the Bible. However, over time, as more evidence emerged from paleontology, embryology, and later genetics, Darwin's theory gained acceptance and became a cornerstone of modern biology. Darwin's ideas also had profound social and philosophical implications. They influenced fields beyond biology, contributing to debates about human nature, morality, and society. Social Darwinism, a misinterpretation and application of Darwin's ideas to human societies, led to controversial and often harmful policies that promoted competition and inequality. However, the misuse of Darwin's theory should not overshadow his scientific contributions. Modern relevance today on the origin of species is recognized as a foundational text in the study of biology and evolution. Darwin's insights have been supported and expanded by discoveries in genetics, which provided a mechanism for inheritance and variation through the study of DNA. The integration of Darwinian natural selection with genetic principles led to the modern synthesis of evolutionary biology, cementing Darwin's place in scientific history. Current research in evolutionary biology continues to build on Darwin's framework, exploring areas such as genetic drift, epigenetics, and molecular evolution. The principles of natural selection are also applied in diverse fields, from ecology to medicine, where understanding the evolution of pathogens is crucial for developing effective treatments. On the Origin of Species is not just a scientific text, it is a revolutionary work that transformed our understanding of life. Charles Darwin's theory of evolution by natural selection provided a unifying explanation for the diversity of life on Earth and established a framework for future scientific exploration. Despite the controversy it initially sparked, Darwin's work has endured, influencing biology, philosophy, and the broader understanding of humanity's place in nature. Through On the Origin of Species, Darwin's legacy lives on, inspiring curiosity and scientific inquiry into the mysteries of life and evolution.